Milo had a fancy job title, courtesy the new police chief, special case investigator, lieutenant grade. Or, as he put it, hoo-ha, poo-bra, big-ass sittin' mallard. What it came down to was that he had avoided most of the paper pushin' that came with his rank, kept his closet-sized office at West LA Division, continued to work his own homicides until downtown called and pointed him elsewhere. 2 calls had come in over the last 14 months, and both Rampart Division gang revenge shootings, not even close to the whodunits, but the chief, still feeling his way in LA, had heard rumors of fresh Rampart corruption and wanted liability insurance. The rumors proved false, and Milo had concentrated on not being their nuisance, and when that case is closed, the chief insisted his assignee's name be on the reports. Even though I wasn't useful as a stone-blind trapper-shooter, made me real popular. Easy metaphor, the morning he came up with it. The 2 of us were blasting away at clay pigeons on a semi-valley firing range. Late June, dry heat, blue skies, khaki hills. Milo lumbered through all 5 positions of the voice-activated trap setup, hitting 80% without much effort. Last year, he'd been the target of the shotgun-wielding psychopath, still carried pellets in his left shoulder. I'd emptied an entire box of shells before accidentally nailing one of the bright green discs as I racked the browning and drank a warm soda. He'd said, "When you shoot, you close your left eye. So maybe you're right-handed but left-eyed, and it's throwing you off balance." He had me from a triangle with both hands, positioning my fingers so that the space between them was filled by the dead tree to the east. "Shut the left one, now the right. Which one makes it jump more?" I knew the eye dominance test. Had run it years ago as a psych intern, researching brain literacy and learning disabled children. Never tried it on myself. The results were a surprise. Milo laughed, sinister-eyed. "Now you know what to do. Also, stop rejecting the damn thing." I said, "What do you mean?" But I knew exactly what he was talking about. "You're holding it like you can't wait to ditch it." Hefting that gun and handed it over. "Embrace it. Lean forward. Yeah, like that. I've fired pistols and rifles in ugly situations. Don't enjoy firearms any more than going through dental work, but I appreciate the value of both. Shotguns, with their elegant, lethal simplicity, were another story. Up till today, I had avoided them. 12-gauge Remingtons had been my father's playthings of choice. An 870 pump action Winchester, purchased at a police auction, stood in the corner of the dad's closet, almost always loaded. Like Dad. Summers, late June, he'd make me tag along on squirrel and small bird hunts, stalking flimsy little animals with absurd firepower because all he wanted to do was obliterate, using me to search the bloody dust, bring back a bone fragment or a claw or a beak, because I was more obedient than a dog, scared of his mood swings in the way no dog could ever be. My other assignments were keeping my mouth shut and toting his camouflage patterned gear bag. Inside, along with his cleaning kit and boxes of ammunition and an odd dog-eared Playboy, or the silver-plated whiskey flask, the plaid thermos of coffee, the sweating cans of Blue Ribbon, the reek of alcohol in his breath growing stronger as the day wore on. "Ready? Deep-eyed," said Milo. "Shut the right, open the left, and lean more, even more, making yourself part of the gun. There you go. Hold that. And don't aim. Just point, eyeing the bunker. Pull. Half an hour later, you hit more than I did, pal. I've created a monster." At 10:30, we were loading the truck of my Seville When Milo's cell phone beeped the first 6 notes of my way. He listened while following the ascent of the red-tailed hawk. His big, pale face tightened when, okay, an hour, click. Time to head back to the anti-civilization drive, poor favor. As we got on the I-18 East, he said. Body dumped in the Bird Marsh in Playa. Some volunteer found it last night. Pacific Division's on it. But, I said, Pacific's short-handed because of a gang suppression issues. The only free guy is a rookie. His holiness wants argumented. Problem child. Who knows? Anyway, that's the official story. Yet, you wonder. He pushed a lick of black hair off of his pocketed brow, stretched his legs, ran his hands over his face like washing without water. The marsh is political, right? And the chief's a politician. As I drove back towards the city, he phoned for details. Got a sketch. Recent kill, white female, 20s, evidence of ligature strangulation, removal of the entire right hand by way of the surgically clean cut. One of those, he said. Time to keep both your eyes open, doctor. The Bird Marsh is 2-acre triangle of uneasy compromise 1/2 mile east of the ocean, where Colville and Jefferson and Lincoln Boulevards intersect. 3 sides of the triangle face multi-lane thoroughfares, condominium, crammed, bluffed, loom over the southern edge, and the lax flight plan brings in mechanical thunder. The bulk of the wetlands occupies a bowl-like depression, well below the view of passing motorists, and as I parked across the street, all I could see was summer brown grass and all the crowns of distant willows and cottonwoods. In L.A., anything that can't be appreciated from the speeding car doesn't count, and federal protection for the flora and fauna sandwiched between all that progress, he has remained elusive. 5 years ago, a film studio run by a clutch of self-proclaimed progressive billionaires had tried to buy the land for an environmentally friendly movie lot, funded by taxpayer money, shielded from public exposure. The plan progressed smoothly, the usual soul kiss between big money and small minds. Then a talk radio dyspeptic found out and latched on to the conspiracy like a rabid wolverine, leaving spokespeople tripping over each other in the rush to deny. The Save the Marsh volunteer group that formed soon after disavowed the shock-jock tactics and accepted 2 Priuses dominated by the billionaires. So far, no sign of earth movers. I turned off the engine and Milo and I took a few minutes to soak in the long view. Cute little wood-burned signs fashioned to resemble summer camp projects were too distant to read, and I'd visited last year with Robin, knew the signs granted street parking, a generously now rendered irrelevant by yellow tape and orange cones. A larger white sign directed pedestrians to remain on the footpath and leave the animals alone. Robin and I had figured on a hike, but the path covered less than a fifth of the marsh's perimeter that day, and I'd spotted a scrawny, bearded man wearing a Save the Marsh badge and asked about the lack of access, because humans are the enemy. Milo said, "Onward," and we crossed the street. A uniform stationed in front of the tape swelled his chest like a mating pigeon and blocked us with a palm. When Milo's gold shield flashed, the cop said, "Sirs," and stepped aside, looking cheated. 2 vehicles were parked in a gap between the cones, white coroner's van, unmarked gray Ford Explorer. I said the body was removed last night, but the crypt crew back Fancy that. 100 feet north, 2 other uniforms walked in out of the foliage and climbed up to the hill or sidewalk. Then a broad-shouldered, stocky man in blue blazer and khakis appeared, brushing off his lapels. Blazer seemed to be studying us, but Milo ignored him and peered up at the mountains of condos. Gotcha. Gotta be 100 units minimum, Alex. All those people with a clear view, and someone chooses this place to body dump? All those people with a clear view of nothing, I said. Why nothing? No street lights around the marsh. After sunset, the place is ink. There's ink. You've been here at night? There's a guitar shop in Playa del Rey that runs concerts from time to time. A few months ago, I came to clear flamenco. I'm talking 9:30. The place was deserted. Ink, he said, almost like a genuine bucolic nature preserve. I told him about my daytime visit, the limited access. While you were here, you didn't happen to see a slavering bad guy skulling around wearing a large print name tag and offering a DNA sample? Sorry, never met OJ. He laughed, checked out the bluff again, turned and scanned the expanse of the marsh. The cops were still there, but the man in the blazer was gone. Birds and froggies and whatever sleeping through the whole dang thing. We slipped under the tape, walked toward a white flag waving from a high metal stake, and the stake was planted 5 or so feet off the path, set in the dirt, solid enough to hold it still. But a few yards in, the soil melted to algae-glazed muck. The path continued for a few yards, then took a sharp turn. Voices behind the bend led us to the 3 figured in white plastic coveralls squatting in shallow water, partially hidden by sawgrass, tulle, and bulrushers. Submersion in water, slow decompression, but moisture combined with air exposure could speed it up, as would heat, and this year's June was starting to feel like July. I wondered what state the body was in, not ready to think about who the body had once been. The stocky man materialized around a second curve, walked toward us while removing a pair of mirrored shades. Young, ruddy, dirty, blonde, crew cut, Lieutenant Mo Reed, Pacific. Detective Reed, Mo's fine. This is Dr. Alex Delaware, our physiological consultant. Physiological, said Reed. Because of the hand? Because you never know, said Milo. Reed gave me a long look before nodding. His unshielded eyes were clear, round, baby blue. The blazer was square-cut, made him look like boxier than he was. Pleats and cuffs off the khakis, bright white wash-and-wear shirt, green and blue reptie, crepe-soled brown oxfords, dressed like a middle-aged preppy, but late 20s tops, with the short-limbed, barreled chest build of a wrestler. The barely colored buzz cut topped a round, smooth face the sun would ravage. He smelled like a day at the beach. Fresh application of sunscreen. He'd missed a spot on his left cheek, and the flesh was heading towards medium rare. A car door slamming caught our attention. 2 attendants got out of the coroner's van. One lit a cigarette, and the other watched his partner smoke. Milo eyed the white-clad woman in the water. Detective Mo Reed said, "Forensic anthropologist, Lieutenant." The body was buried. No, sir. Left on the bank. No attempt to conceal. Had ID left on it, too. Selena Bass. Address is in Venice. I went over there at 7 a.m. It's a converted garage. No one was home. Anyway, in terms of the anthropologist's visibility was poor, so I thought it would be a good idea to bring in a canine unit, make sure we didn't miss the hand. We hadn't, but the dogs got all excited. Reed rubbed his left nostril. Turns out there were complications. The Belgian's Malinois named Edith, a search dog. Not a cadaver dog, Lieutenant, but apparently it doesn't always matter. Had arrived with her handler at 1:30 a.m., sniffed around the dump site, and then proceeded to race into the marsh, stopping at a spot 30 feet south of the body. She dove into the outer lip of the pocket of the brackish slit, no more than 6 feet from the bank, freezing in place, barking. When the handler didn't get there fast enough, howling. Ordering back on land, the dog just sat there. The handler asked for hip waders. Those took another half an hour to arrive, and the dog stayed in place for 10 minutes, suddenly bolted. Sitting in another spot, farther up the marsh, panting, like she was proud of herself, said Mo Reed. Guess she should be. By 5 a.m., 3 additional bodies had been confirmed, Mo Reed said. The others seemed to be mostly bones, Lieutenant. Could be one of those Indian burial rites situations. One of the Crips divers had come over. He said, sure, don't smell like ancient history. Maybe it's natural gas. The driver grinned. Or the chili someone had for dinner. Or frijoles growing in the marsh. Mo Reed said, I'll let you know when you can go, and led us toward the trio of anthropologists. Grown high in brown-green soup, the woman conferred earnestly around another staked white pemmican that dropped in the warm, static air. If you saw us, they gave no notice. We kept going. Around the next bend were the other 2 flags, like a weird golf course. We retraced. 2 of the scientists were young, one black, one white. Both had crammed, ample configures into disposable caps. An older woman with short, chopped gray hair noticed Reed and waved. Hey, Dr. Hargrove, any news? Normally, we'd be setting up the angles for trenching, but this is protected land, and we're not sure what the perimeters are. I can try to find out. We've already got a call in the volunteer office. Someone should be here soon. More important, the earth gets so soft in spots consistently so that we're afraid we'll do more damage than good in the terms of finding everything there is to find. She smiled. At least it's not quicksand, I'm pretty sure. The woman laughed. Small metal tools gleamed in her hands. Mo Reed said, What's the plan then, Dr. Hargrove? We're going to need time to poke around. The best technique may be to eventually slide at something under whatever's in here, raise it up very gradually, and hope nothing falls off. One thing I can tell you, we're not talking paleontology. There's soft tissue present under the mandible and of this one, and possibly behind the knees. The skin where we've been able to observe appears dark, but that could be decomp. Fresh, said Reed. Not nearly as fresh as the one left out in the open, but I can give it a fix. Or give you a fix. What? Her water can rot or preserve, depending on so many factors, and we're getting moderate pH for samples in the immediate area, despite all of the detritus. But there could still be some kind of buffering effect due to specific vegetation that matters, the effects of acid rain, plant decay, all that good stuff. I really can't tell you more until I get everything out here. Soft tissue, said Reed. That's pretty recent, right? Probably, but not necessarily, said Hargrove. A few years ago, they pulled a Civil War vet out of a mass grave in Pennsylvania. Poor fellow just happened to end up in the low oxygen, low humidity pocket near a series of subterranean caves, and still had skin and muscle adhering to his cheeks. Most of it was mummified, but some wasn't. His beard looked freshly trimmed. Unbelievable, said Reed, catching the eye of a young black anthropologist, turning away. No way you can guesstimate for me, doctor. Off the record. Off the record, I'll go on a limb and say probably not decades. There is one thing. The right hand's gone from all of them, but we haven't started examining closely. There could be other parts missing. Animal scatter, said Reed. Don't imagine coyotes or raccoons diving into this, but you never know. Some of the bigger birds, herons, egrets, even a pelican or a gull, might have picked up a tidbit or two. Or a human predator, someone taking a trophy. We'll backtrack weather reports to try to find out whether on water could have been a factor in terms of drift and alteration of surface temperature. Complicated, said Milo. Handgrove grinned. It's what we live for, but I'm sorry for you guys. The young black anthropologist, pretty, with a heart-shaped face and a bow mouth, said something to Hargrove. Hargrove said, "Thank you, Liz." To us, Dr. Wilkinson wants you to know that all three bodies seem to be facing east. Was that true of the one left out in the open? Reed thought. As a matter of fact, it was interesting. Dr. Wilkinson spoke up. On the other hand, we're talking about an N of a small sample from which to draw a significant conclusion. Reed said, 4 out of 4 sounds significant to me, Doc. Wilkinson shrugged. The other young anthropologist, freckled and rosy-cheeked, said, east, as in facing the down, some sort of ritual. Facing Mecca, said Hargrove. She grimaced. Who won't even go there? Or we won't even go there. Reed had kept his eyes on Dr. Liz Wilkinson. Thanks for being so observant. Wilkinson tugged at her hair cap. Just thought you should know. Reed, Milo, and I returned to the entrance of the marsh. The coroner's van was gone, and 2 uniforms remained on guard, looking bored. One said, "The gulls went to catch a bite." Reed said, "Any ideas, Lieutenant?" "Sounds like that you've got everything covered." The younger detective fiddled with the sunglasses. "Tell you one thing, I'm happy for the help." Why's that?" "It's shaping up like a team case, right?" Milo didn't answer, and Reed's sunburned spot turned crimson. "To be honest, I'm not exactly Sherlock, Lieutenant." "How long on the job?" "Joined the department after college, made detective 2 years ago. Started at Central GTA, and I just got transferred to homicide last February." "Congratulations." Reed frowned. "Picked up 2 cases since then. Besides this one, one closed in a week, but another one could have done it. Total to no brainer. The second one's an icy cold missing person I'm not sure will ever be solved." Pacific sends MD's cases to homicide. "Not generally," said Reed. "Rich conversations. The kind you definitely want to make happy, but cases have their own rhythm," said Milo. "Takes time to get to your footing. I've seen him lose sleep, gain weight, and experience soaring blood pressure over unsolves. Reed studied the soft brown dirt of the marsh. A brown pelican soared, aimed its massive beak downward, changed its mind, and flew back toward the Pacific. Milo said, "Let's talk about Selena Bass." Reed pulled out his pad. Female, Caucasian, 26 years old, 5'5", 110, brown, and brown. One registered vehicle, a 2003 Nissan Sentra, and it was at her apartment. Didn't look disturbed, so we're not talking a jacking. No signs of obvious forced entry. Maybe she went off with someone she knew and things got nasty. We're in Venice. Reed read off an address on India, south of Rose, west of Lincoln. Milo said, "Gang stuff going on there, right?" "Some. Banger snatchers her. It wouldn't be much of a drive from there to here, so Sure, we could be talking about a convenient dump site, but those other bodies, they could also be Vic's from Bass's neighborhood, a gang hit thing, or, said Milo, a creepo thing. He watches them, stalks them, grabs them. Reed frowned. Stranger on stranger. A bellowed, hey, made the three of us turn. The scrawny, bellowed-legged man in a white t-shirt, high green cargo shorts, and a flip-flops strode toward us, pumping his arms. Same fellow who'd snarled a surly remark about humans 3 months ago. Hey, he repeated. No one's answered. What's going on? Mo Reed said, You are? Silford Duboff. Save the marsh. This is my place. I'm here to keep an eye on all proceedings. Your place, said Reed. No one else's cares. Reed extended a hand. Duboff took it reluctantly, all in if fearing contamination. What's going on? What's going on, sir? It's early this morning. We removed the body of a young woman who was murdered and left on the banks of the marsh. While processing the scene, we found at least 3 other bodies. Silford Duboff blanched. Processing? You're digging? Nothing extensive. Out of the question. Duboff noticed the flag marketing Selena Bass's dump site. What's that doing here? That's where we found the first victim, sir. And as I said, 3 other women, all dead. Duboff rubbed his beard. This is disaster. Reed removed his sunglasses, baby blue eyes, and had narrowed. I'd call 4 dead bodies in a disaster. You said at least 3 more. Are you implying there could be more? 3? What we've got so far, Mr. Duboff? Oh, crap. Where are the others? I need to look. Duboff started to head for the flag. Milo's big arm held him back. What? Duboff demanded. No access yet, sir. That's absolutely unacceptable. Milo showed teeth. Sir, it's eminently acceptable, Duboff said. What's the reason? Police personnel are working the scene? What do you mean, working? Examining particulars. Duboff yanked yanked on his beard. This is a protected site. You just can't have cops parking their grubby forensic anthropologists, sir. They're excavating. I absolutely must talk to them right now. We appreciate your concern, Mr. Duboff, but these people are specialists, and they respect every site. This isn't just a site, it's a beautiful place, said Milo. The only thing that will be removed is evidence. That's outrageous. So is homicide, sir. And this is worse, said Duboff. Worse than 4 bodies, said Reed. I'm not. I appreciate the fact that people have died, but when push comes to shove, all humans do is alter the balance. Your murders are perfect proof. Of what? We keep murdering the earth, then we wonder why life's so brutal. I said, sounds like you don't have much use for people. Duboff stared at me. No, not a hint of recognition. As a matter of fact, I'm a card-carrying misanthrope, but I don't kill anything that breathes oxygen, pointing to his flip-flops. Organic rubber. He eyed the white flag. What I'm saying is we need to ensure that this rare pocket of tranquility remains that way. Seems to me, said Reed, that it's already been disturbed. Then let's not make matters worse. I must have a talk with those ditch diggers. Reed looked at Milo. Milo said, after you answer a few questions. He loomed over Duboff, began prepping his increasingly flustered man with a mix of relevant and seemingly random questions, eventually zeroing in on the Duboff's whereabouts during the past 24 hours. Duboff said, You suspect me? Sir, these are the questions we need to. Who cares where I was last night? But fine. I've got nothing to hide. Nothing. I was home, reading, just jutting his chin, enjoying untamed reader, if you must know. You live alone? Said Milo. Duboff smiled. Yes, but often a friend stays over. A bright, altruistic, sensuous woman who just happens to be in Sebastopol at the Green Fiber Music Festival. When did your murder take place? We are still determining that, sir, Duboff said. It had to be after 8 o'clock because I'd stopped by the marsh at 8, and trust me, there were no bodies. How long were you here? Briefly, to check for trash. After that, I bought a sandwich at the all-night market on Colliver, greens and tempeh. And if you must know, then I dropped over at my place to see how our volunteer was doing. He huffed. Rich brat, got assigned to us for a community service punishment. He was doing fine, so I left him and drove to Santa Monica and ate my sandwich on ocean front. And then I returned to the office at 10:05 to make sure that the brat had locked up, which was fortunate because he hadn't. And by 10:30 I was with my Utin. Find any trash at the marsh, said Milo. None this time. Oh, yes. Alma, my companion, was due to call me from Sebastopol to 11:15, or at 11:15, and she did. Your volunteer, said Mo Reed. What's he being punished for? Something to do with school, said Duboff. I didn't ask. Couldn't care less. He's no asset, but he doesn't cause problems. Alma, said Reed, taking out her pad. Last name, please. Duboff's eyes bugged. Why would you want to talk to her? Routine. Unbelievable. I'm here to safeguard the marsh, and you stormtroop me. Reed said. That's a little harsh, sir. It is, I think not, Milo said. Alma what? Good God, fine. Reynolds. Alma Reynolds. He recited a phone number. Satisfied? Now you must let me through. We followed Duboff, race walked to the anthropologist's work site. Mo Reed caught up and asked Duboff if the name Selena Bass was familiar. The only bass I know and care about are the striped ones, grievously overfished because of the American flesh lust. I said, people wondering if he'd finally remembered me. He said that song is absolute nonsense. Barbara had it completely wrong. Dr. Hargrove's team had removed a few small brown fragments and placed them on the blue tarp laid out on the bank, and all 3 women were back in the water, heads close to the surface, sifting, peering. Duboff said, Who is that? Reed said, Human bones. Duboff cupped his hand and called to the scientist, Be careful, you. The woman looked up. Milo said that this gentleman safeguards the marsh. Duboff said, Don't make it so sound trivial. This gentleman safeguards the marsh importantly. Dr. Hogarth said, Sir, we're being extremely careful, making sure not to upset anything. Your very presence means that the marsh has been upset. Hargrove, Liz Wilkinson, and the freckled scientist stared. Duboff took another look at the bones. Milo said, Sir, we need to clear out. Let them do their job. Speaking of which, do you have one, Mr. Duboff? What are you implying? Milo didn't answer. I most definitely did. Worked at the Midnight Run bookstore. It closed down last year. Ergo said Duboff. Over the years, I made some investments. Can't afford to take my time looking, and no wisecracks about oil and gas stocks. Okay, I don't own money. Boys, said Milo, must be hard on the shoulders. What is? Carrying around a chip the size of a redwood. Duboff's mouth dropped open. Taking hold of his arm, Milo said, Nice meeting you, sir, and guided him back to the street. Reed and I watched the 2 of them walk to Duboff's dusty Jetta. Duboff shook a finger at Milo, and Milo remained impassive. Duboff got in the car, still ranting. Drove off. Milo returned, scissoring his hand to the mimic moving jaws. Reed said, Weird and hostile, but I guess if it was guilty, he'd have tried to be friendly. One part of his His story is definitely true. Stopping by the office after 9 and talking to the volunteer, the kid's name is Chance Brandt, and his part of how he found out about Selena in the first place. What I was about to tell you before Numbnuts interrupted us. Tell it anyway. Reed looked at his watch. Better yet, how about we meet the kid face to face, and I can fill you in on along the way. All I've had is phone contact with his father. Want to make sure I get the facts right. I've got an appointment at their house in 30. Going to be tight unless we start out now. You drive, we'll ride along, Detective Reed. Milo sat shotgun in Reed's blue black Crown Victoria, and I got in back. Most short for Moses. Yes, sir. Ah, you're thinking about a baby floating in the reeds. The whole marsh thing. It did occur to me. Reed laughed. Back when I was born, my mother was kind of biblical. A beat ladder. Moses never got to set the promised land. Milo said, tell me about the Brandt kid.